Nigeria have not prospered. And if you look at our trajectory, all the people who have ruled us, not governed, we have never been governed. We have been ruled over the years, are men.
When she is educated, when girls, women are educated, there is a greater chance of escaping poverty, leading healthier and more productive lives, and raising the standard of living children, families, and community.
To go beyond what men are prepared to offer, the women must stand toe to toe and say, we have the capacity to make it happen for women.
60% of our population is youthful, and we need to put them to work. Otherwise, they're going to get into social vagrancies that we can't afford either.
We must acknowledge the incredible work that the forebears of feminism in our country have done. But we must ask ourselves, despite the enormity of the work they have done, how come we are still at 6.4% representation for women?
I'm happy that they have put together these very wonderful panelists. So I've put together some questions or some remarks here, which I think the panelists should respond to. May I start with Sister Osai? What do we need to do differently? Is it that we don't have enough international instrument, or is it that we're not using it the way we ought to use it, or will you propose another way of making sure that we have good instruments that will advance women political participation in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for making that point, and also for recognizing that, yes, Nigeria is very good at signing and ratifying international treaties. And I think that the issue is not whether we need more treaties or more laws or more policies. The issue is about how do we practicalize these instruments that we have signed up to. When we look at the situation of women in Nigeria and in politics in particular, one of the major gaps, one of the major blockages that prevents women from participating actively is violence against women. There seems to be a cultural tolerance towards the fact that what affects women is not important. So when that happens, a woman that puts herself forward in order to contest in a very volatile environment would require even security to be provided for her. If the government is ready to support women by creating an enabling environment to make sure Article 9 of the Maputo Protocol can come to life, then this issue of violence against women needs to be addressed. Until that is done, we'll continue to struggle to ensure the full implementation of these international treaties. Thank you.
Before this time, 2019 elections, we thought we were going to make a difference. And unfortunately, we did worse than what we had the last time. And it's so sad because when you hear politicians speak, they talk about how passionate they are, with issues concerning women. And it's very sad that in some states, we don't even have a single woman being represented in the state assembly. And then when people come up to talk about how passionate and what they do for women in their respective states, you begin to wonder, are we talking about the same state? I'm talking about my state here. And I'm saying we have no woman in the state assembly. We're coming up to talk about things we will do for women. And I expected we should be talking about what we've done so far for women. And I expect that in 2023, we are not going to come back here to begin to talk about our challenges anymore. And I'm saying that Nigerian women, it's no longer time for us to dress up beautifully well, come out and sing and dance for men. It is very wrong. We are not getting the same, response from them. I don't know why women should not be made at least 50% of cabinet commissioners as women. So when people come up to tell us what they are planning to do for women, I get really upset because we have, built the political structure of this country that we should be, at this time, partners in progress. Nobody should put any woman down. We are here to conquer. And by 2023, we are going to conquer.
Thank you very much. Money politics is really one thing that is really making women go down. We can't even compete with the men. And this has a very long negative history. So looking at the cost of politics, looking at the social and economic cost, what will you recommend going forward to improving this political participation for women and especially young women?
I can answer this question in two ways. I could either answer it from an idealistic perspective, or I could give a very pragmatic answer. The way Nigerian politics is structured right now, I don't see money politics going anywhere anytime soon. And that's just being honest. And there are a number of issues we've listed regarding factors militating against women's political participation. And I believe, take a look at Anambra State. We have Senator Stella Odwa, Senator Uche Kunife. And one thing that sticks, when you think about these two women is the fact that they can match any man who runs against them, naira for naira, dollar for dollar, whatever it is that they want to spend, they can double it. The way our politics is structured is not ideal. But the only thing that I would recommend right now is we need to begin to identify those amongst us whom we know have the capacity, have the a sincerity of purpose when it comes to leadership and occupying elective office or political office. Feminism or women's rights, whatever it is that we want to call it, whatever name that we want to present it with, is something that can be purposeful. And we need to have an agenda, we need to know what we want to do, and we need to know how we want to do it. And we have to commit fully to getting all those things done. I have been part of panels for a very long time. For the longest time, I refused to go to conferences. I refused to go to seminars because I believe we just talk about the same thing. And one major factor that works against women is the lack of internal democracy in political parties. I stood up against it, not minding the cost. Because as I said earlier, I believe in things being done right. Democracy is a process. If we say it's a government for the people, by the people, and of the people, then are we really living up to that definition if half of the people are not allowed to participate in that process? Then, Honorable Henry Nwauba, I'm very familiar with you. I worked as an essay to Honorable Yakubu Dogara, so I know the good work that you've been doing in the House. I was going to also speak about the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill, but now that my sister has said it, I would like to say something else. During the last constitution amendment process, I found it very curious that the House assented to the amendments that would make states give 35% of appointed positions to women, but when it came to federal positions, they voted against it. So if Section 42 was not an impediment for states, I don't think it should be an impediment for the federal government.
Your Excellency, sir, you've heard all that has been said. We need to hear from you. We know you've been very active in Bayelsa and you love the women. What is that institutional mechanism that you have put in place that will be so sustainable to make sure that women get very visible in political space in Bayelsa, and any other you want to respond to?
You've asked a question, but before I go into that, let me preface it by making one or two remarks concerning the general discussions that we've been having since morning. Because you see, the two panels are interwoven. The subject matters we are here discussing are also interwoven. I mean, whether you're talking about women in politics, or you're talking about supporting women in the 21st century, Nigeria, in terms of how they perform their roles as nation builders. You can't run away from the role of education. You can't run away from the role of empowering them economically. You can't talk about, all the other things we need to do to support them, including establishing a framework by which women are encouraged, identified, and then supported, as we've all done. I'm talking about briefly because education is so key. It's only an educated woman who can rise to the occasion and play her roles as a nation builder, as you are all doing very well. And special recognition to my dear friend's wife, Mrs. Fayemi. So it's only an educated woman, like you all are doing, that can play these roles. So we can't get tired of talking about education. It's got to be education first, education second, education third. And that's one of the things we started doing in Bayelsa. When we took over and we declared a state of emergency in a very critical sector, from a state that had no single boarding school, that was ranked about 28, 29 in all national exams. Now we have over 15 model boarding schools that are like tertiary institutions. And it's even free. Put the best girl every year, the best boy every year from all the primary schools are selected.
and they are brought and given free scholarships. And so within a space of 5-6 years, from 28, 29 position that Bayelsa was taking in national exams, we are now number 3, number 4, number 5. So that is the recognition that has to go. And when we do that generally, not minding whether you are educating a boy or a girl, you are actually improving the capacity of people to play their roles in nation building, including the girl child, including, therefore, women. And then you also need to back it up with empowerment in the economic sense. Because to educate them, you also enable them to do their businesses and so on. That's why we've set up microfinance banks. And in every tour that I make to the local governments, I always visit the schools, talk to the children, and also stop over at the microfinance banks. And I've discovered that over 80% of those who borrow from these banks and do businesses and pay back are women. So affecting lives. And then thirdly, in my view, this issue we're talking about, the political involvement. The issue of women in politics, which is the subject matter of this particular discussion, or this panel. And now back to your question. In Bayelsa, yes, we have a lot of women in appointive positions. But I like the point that was made here. And I wish the lady the radio lady, and we should commend Governor of Kwara for what he has done. We need to appoint more women. But I have a lot of women appointed in my government in various capacities. But I think it's more tasking. It's much more fundamental when you support a woman to get elected. And I hope that women leaders should all be alive to this. It's good to appoint, but now we had local government elections about a month ago. And we took on another battle. And we told all party leaders, 30% of these councillors must be women. 30%. And most of the leaders disagreed. People decamped, saying, our governor didn't allow us to select a woman. It was because we brought out an affirmative action. And people should not dismiss this notion of an affirmative action. When you are dealing with vulnerable groups and people who need particular support, the best way to do it is to come up, recognize the problem, and deal with it. Pronounce an affirmative action, whether it is backed up by law or by policy, and enforce it. But by far and above all of this, I think what has happened is that, generally speaking, we in Nigeria, the political class, all of us, including all of you here who are interested in Nigerian politics, all of you, it's not enough to say we should encourage women in politics. We know that the demographics are in support of women. We have more women. Those of us who have been contesting elections, who have been in the trenches all these years, we know that without women, couldn't have won elections. In my 2015 re-election, the women of Bayelsa, most of them had to lie down on the road to block armored personnel carriers driven by soldiers. And by their sheer number and determination, they stopped the military people from taking electoral materials to give to the opposition. That was what women of Bayelsa did. And we are rewarding them, recognizing them, even now. A people united can never be defeated. There's no force known to man to stop a people that are determined. Not just to Nigerian women, but to all of us who are interested in sustainable political leadership for our country. So I want to once again congratulate you and thank you for inviting me. And thank you for all the wonderful contributions you have all made. And I want to round up by saying that for us to have the Nigeria of our dreams, got to go back to the way our founding fathers played their politics. 2 days ago, I was looking at watching a video of Nigerian women in the 50s, before independence, politically mobilizing themselves. And don't think this was happening in Lagos or in Enugu or in Port Harcourt. But where? Kano. being guided and mentored by who? The late irrepressible Malam Aminu Kano. Talking about the right of women to vote. All these things, the rights that we have and take for granted. People fought for them. But there's been a lot of disconnect. Politics has become so transactional. Businessmen have become political leaders. Merchants have taken over the whole space. So we've got to go back to the drawing board and see how we organize ourselves better. Obama was a community organizer. How many of us are organizing communities? How many of us are organizing communities? We're looking at the billionaires and millionaires. Where is the organization? Where are the people? And where is the vision? So I think these are some of the ways we will be prepared. I will be prepared, particularly as I round up my eventful tenure in my state, where we have taken development in all sectors 25, 30 years forward in all sectors. I will be looking forward to see how I can network with progressive-minded people who are prepared to make the sacrifice that it takes to build a great country and to have a democracy. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
In Ekiti State, we have been able to make the case to our people, and almost everyone gets it. And even if they don't get it, they pretend that they get it. We have been able to make the case that there is no way we can achieve any kind of development without the full and equal participation of women. And as a result, we have policies and frameworks about some of the most robust we can find in the country. We have policies and frameworks in place to ensure that we protect and promote the rights of women and that we address inequities or inequalities wherever we can find them. And so, for example, we also have a law on disabilities as well. It just needs to be implemented adequately because it's going to require resources to ensure that some of the provisions are addressed. And so, for example, in Ekiti State, the governor spoke about getting women into parliament. In Ekiti State, we were able to get 4 women into the State House of Assembly and 1 into the National Assembly. It's great news, it's commendable. But considering the fact that we are talking about 4 out of 26, I found that, unacceptable. But things are what they are. It's a start. But the process of getting this done, the begging and the groveling and the appealing and the negotiation, I did it in 2011 to get women in, and I did it again this year. I don't want to have to keep doing it. No woman should have to keep begging to be included, because these are rights. We have a gender and equal opportunities law that was passed in 2013 in Ekiti State, and it makes provision for 35% affirmative action, again for the state. So this year when I went around begging again, at least I had some arsenal I could use. And again, with the local government elections coming in December, because now at least we have the law in place. And as a result, come December, we are going to get a minimum, hopefully, of 40% of women who have the ticket to contest for the party. And those positions that are not going to be contested positions, that are going to be appointed, like vice and so on, we've already agreed on a minimum number. We cannot continue to beg. We cannot continue to appeal. But when these excellencies, when they need us to come out and campaign for them, then all the madams here will all come out in the rain, in the sun. We know how the story goes. I have decided that I'm going to be a champion in my own space, on the platform that I have in my state. I'm a champion for women. Sometimes they come to me with problems I can't solve, but the ones that I can't solve, I try to do what I can. Just before I sit down, last week, I did a quick dance in my room because there was a woman who wanted to contest for vice chair in her local government. And they told her that they have zoned the position. Now, when men want to do political mango, that's when they say they are zoning something. But as luck would have it, the place they zoned the position to happened to be where she had come from. So when she went and she said, but I qualify because you zoned the position to this place. They then told her, no, we can't give it to you because you have married into another community. And then the woman, of course, crying with her people, then sent word to me. And then I picked up the phone. I used my platform. I used my influence. I used my begging. So within 24 hours, the story changed and the woman got the ticket. So we can all be a champion. Every one of us has influence that we can use. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the Governor, I'd like to stand on the layers of protocol that had been established. Once again, my name is Henry Nwawuba. I'm a congressman, and I'm here to represent, or I am representing the governor of Imo State. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself today, Osasu. I have gained a lot of knowledge. The panelists are all Amazons. The first panel was equally powerful. And I really do believe that when you go to a meeting and most of the things that you want to share has been touched upon, there's absolutely no need to repeat and keep, hammering on them. A lot has been said. Having sat here from morning till now, despite the fact that I am the deputy chairman for the House Committee on Niger Delta, we are having a budget defense season. I do have to be in the parliament. The conversation has been so gripping that I could not move. I had to sit to lend my voice to this conversation. The truth of the matter is that just like in football, if you stay outside the pitch, you can shout as much as you want. Except you're part of the 22 players, you cannot make a difference. Even if you're on the bench, except the coach says, come inside and participate, you cannot make a difference. So we talk about 35%, we talk about all these numbers, but if the numbers keep reducing, how are we going to get there, sir? It won't work. I have been through 2 elections in Nigeria. The first time I ever came into politics was in 2015. One time, and I won, a man. I contested against a woman who had tried for the same seat twice. But the minute a man came out, they would rather vote for the man. That is the situation in Nigeria, whether we like it or not. So we need to tell ourselves some home truths. Sometimes I go for my morning run with my wife, and as I'm walking through the gate, the people that work in our estate would say to my wife, "Good morning, sir." It's all in our minds. We need to recalibrate the narrative, and it has to be done in a very precise manner. On the 29th of May, the government was sworn in Imo State, and the governor put his foot down. When he was putting his transition committee chairman, out of 27, he ensured, and it wasn't easy, but he ensured that 5 of them were women. And I can say boldly that when you aggregate the total number of women participating today in the Imo State government, we are doing about 35%. We are. But then again, it's like winking in the dark. If you can do 50% and you're doing 35%, what are we really celebrating? So I really look forward, Osasu, you have to. I'm sorry, you're very young, but you're doing a great job. Don't get tired. You need ambassadors that will work with you. Lois, I will put myself forward to reintroduce your bill. You can work with me. Osasu, you can work with me. We will keep pushing. We will keep holding our hands, and we will have to keep lighting the candle until all the external noise begins to form a rhythm. A very good afternoon to you all.